Hi, I hope you are doing great today and are eager to learn a bit about working with grids in Inkscape. So in my previous videos I talked about how to create guides by dragging from the left or top rulers, and in this video we're going to show you how to make grids which are very similar to guides, but they are laid out all across your document, so you can specify how far the grid lines are and it creates a sort of a rectangular grid like a mesh on your document, which works pretty much the same way your guides work. So let's go ahead and start by changing our document properties actually. So you go to document properties and you click on the grids section. A quick note here, if you're using Inkscape 0.48, the document properties dialog will not be docked, it'll come up as a different dialog, but I think the options are pretty much the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a rectangular grid. There are two kinds of grids and I'm just going to cover the rectangular grid in this section. So you see a rectangular grid and you click on new, and now you get a nice little rectangular grid. This grid, the default grid that is created, is not exactly what you might need every time, because it has, the spacing that it has is pretty granular. It's like 1 pixel. Each grid line that you see is 1 pixel away. So let me show you exactly how that looks like. So if you zoom into it by pressing Control and scroll, you'd see that there is a grid line drawn every 1 pixel, and that's what the spacing does. But you also notice that there is a slightly darker line at every 5 squares, sorry, and that's because here it says you want to draw a major grid line every 5 squares. So every 5 minor grid lines, sorry. So now let's change this grid. Let's say that I want to only see the major grid lines, because the minor grid lines and the major, they're just too much on the document. So I'm going to make this minor grid line invisible, so I don't see it anymore. So I only see the major grid lines, and let's say the minor grid line is spaced every 1 pixel, but the major grid line is spaced every 20 minor grid lines. The moment I type 20 and tab out of it, you'd be able to see in your document that now your minor grid lines have completely vanished and you have a major grid line every 20 pixels, and you have a neat little grid on your system now which can be used to snap objects when you're creating your visualizations. You can also create a number of grids. For example, if you click on new again, you get a second grid here, right? And at the same time you can have multiple grids active, so you might choose a different setting for the second grid and have it active, maybe even a different color. But you can also enable or disable certain grids, or just enable or disable a different visibility. And the difference is that if you enable stuff, then things will still snap to the grid, although it will not be visible. And if it's visible but not enabled, you'll just be able to see it, but the snapping actions won't perform. So that's pretty much what it was about grids, and I hope you found it useful. Thank you.